Hey folks, Dust here, and I wanted to do a video because we just had another update released for Battalion 1944. It's the March 16th update, and while it's not as heavy as the March 8th update, there still was a decent amount of changes made, mostly to maps, but also some spectating and gameplay changes, so I wanted to go over those with you now. And we'll start with the gameplay changes, as the one up here at the top is going to be that the bomb fuse timer is now 50 seconds in unranked and competitive modes. I believe this is a 5-second increase. I believe before it was 45 seconds. And so basically this just extends the shot clock on the bomb, right? That extra 5 seconds gives more time for Axis to rotate, to set up a retake on a bomb site where the bomb is already down, which means that if you have a longer rotation you have to make as an Axis member because you've been aggressive on one side of the map and the bomb gets planted on the opposite side, you have more time to make your way over to coordinate a retake on the site. Now, I think this might be neat, but I do wonder, with the game already being fairly Axis-sided in most situations, this is going to put additional strain on allies to win the round. Because as an ally, when you plant the bomb, you already have to be concerned about set nades that'll come in and stop you from planting, and so that kind of delays the clock and stuff. And you know, now once you get the bomb planted, now you have to wait an extra 5 seconds, or you have to hold off an extra 5 seconds to either A, let the bomb explode, or B, make it to where too much time has passed and now Axis no longer have the ability to defuse the bomb because it takes 7.5 seconds to defuse. And so if you get the clock down to 7 or so seconds, then they're not going to have time to defuse whether they get the frags they need or not. This certainly could make, you know, retaking a bit better. It at least can encourage Axis to maybe do more things on the map and not be so worried about not being able to rotate in time on a retake. So I could see as to where it could have some advantages there, but I also wonder if it just makes it even harder on the allies to do certain things in a game that already seems Axis-sided. When you think about the STG versus the bar, you could debate M1 Garand versus Car 98. I'm not sure where you'd want to go with that. I think they both have their pros and cons, and then just map construction seems to favor Axis on a lot of different maps. So I wonder how this change will play out. I'm certainly willing to accept it and see how it goes. I think it could at least make for retakes to be more interesting if people had more time to coordinate them, maybe come up with some better team play, some better coordination, and it could look more visually appealing. Also, we had the operator having their frag grenade removed and given a smoke grenade instead. I think this is in line with the operator was before the temporary ward side changes we saw on the March 8th update. Maybe this will get rid of some of the nade spam because now you have to pick heavier default to get a nade, and so you can't get an operator and still be a part of the nade spam that heavies and defaults are doing. So maybe that could help things out a little bit. It might mean there's less nades available, but we certainly will see. I was thinking that with this temporary award tie thing, maybe we do need to instill some class limits, because I do think it's kind of insane that people can just 5-stack heavy, since heavy card is infinite, and just 5 nade stuff. So I do wonder if maybe there needs to be at least some change made right now to where it's like max class limit, to where you can only play maybe 2 of one class or something like that. Again, I know that the award side situation is temporary until the big update comes, but I do wonder about the infinite cards a little bit on some of the classes, but we'll have to see how that goes. But now we have to get into some map changes, because this is where some of the meat of this update really is. And the first one being on Derailed, which I'm really happy about this, because as you can see, we've had a tunnel added here to this building that's going to be going into the courtyard, where allies basically get to bypass all the nade spam that happens at middle, go through this tunnel and get into this courtyard, and from here they can eventually run across to go short B, or they can come here, maybe take some peeks at middle, try to get an engagement, try to get a duel, or come here, try to get a duel, and it just gets them there faster and safely is really the most important part, and it gets them set up to get here more safely, maybe bypassing nades that will normally land in this hallway that would stop them from, you know, getting up into alt mid or crossing over towards long door. Definitely seen some nade spam around this area. Now that can kind of be avoided if you're able to come through this tunnel and then come this way to alt mid or long door. You maybe avoid some nades and get set up for some different peak timings. And obviously this is something that Lex was talking about on a Reddit post that you would have seen, and then of course I made a video about Derailed pretty much the next day. And obviously the idea for this tunnel kind of came from a conversation between myself, Lex, and Hero in a Discord one night, where we were talking about how can we solve the nade spam problem on Derailed. We were just brainstorming for probably about an hour or two in that Discord, and we came up with different ideas. One was like adding a skybox to stop nades from coming over. We quickly realized that that would fail, because then allies would be able to cross mid too quickly to B without anything stopping them, which would really crush Axis. this, and it would be the opposite extreme of what it is now. Instead of Axis getting all the cinema control and such, all of a sudden Allies would be getting to B way too fast, and it'd be a huge problem. Also talked about maybe doing something with pushing this back or coming up with some type of hallway you could run through here to cinema and avoid nade spam, but we kind of thought about, you know, one part was just getting rid of this wall and letting you walk here without a tunnel, and then the tunnel idea came up from Lex, and so it was a group contribution. I guess Lex deserves the majority of the credit because he actually is the one who said tunnel and kind of came up with that idea, but it was kind of facilitated through a bunch of conversation between all of us. And so Lex does have a nice little decal here on the wall because of this. Also, Hero is going to be honored, who, you know, really helped us with this as well. A big guy who's helped us kind of theory craft on different maps. So shout out to Hero, another North American player that's playing on some of the teams that are doing pretty well in some of the first NA tournaments. Obviously, Lex playing with the Pure guys, and they've done really well in NA tournaments. And then I got a little, I guess, honor here inside the map. So it's pretty cool to be a part of the game, part of the map, based on some feedback that we gave and came up with. And so that's pretty neat. And that's basically the biggest change for Derailed. I'm really curious to see how this tunnel will help Allies get control of something without getting nades. Obviously, I feel like there's new nades that could maybe be thrown that'll land here, or land here, or something that could still, you know, kill Allies trying to get control of the courtyard. So nade flies over and lands perfectly here, it probably kills them, but at least it would spread out the nades, because if nades are being committed to that area to stop people coming through tunnel instead of at mid, then maybe it opens up mid a little bit more, and so it becomes somewhat of a guessing game, but also about how do you want to invest your resources, where do you want to put them, and how does it play out. So I'll be curious to see if this tunnel entrance is enough to make this map feel better for Allies and overall make it a better experience to compete in, or whether or not further changes will be needed still, if timings are still messed up, or if nade spam still becomes a problem. Only time will really be able to tell that, but it's cool to see that there already was a change made to see how it would play out and see if this makes the map better. And so we will now move on to some of the other changes. So one of the other changes that we heard about pretty early on was some changes to the colors on Liberation. Again, it had already gotten a change, but now it's being changed again to make the clouds more visible. As you can see, the clouds are way more visible. And of course, the biggest reason for this is it helps people line up certain smokes and set nades by being able to line up on a smoke with your crosshair or a nade on your crosshair. You're able to just line up things better, right? So that is certainly a cool change. Again, I think the map looks really visually appealing. I think that this edition makes it even better for people trying to line up grenades and be able to see better on this map. So definitely cool news for Liberation with the lighting tweaks and such. There was no major change to this map, which is good. I don't think it needed it, but we did see one change to this new open barn area that's on B, which I think this is the window that got closed, if I'm not mistaken. So because of this window being closed, if you are, let's say, in Axis rotating to retake the site, if you try to peek through here, you can't really see a whole lot. Yeah, you can kind of see if someone's maybe playing up there, or, you know, right around this area here, but your vision is quite limited. You can't just stare into the whole bomb site and it'd be a little bit ridiculous. However, if you're an ally controlling the site and post-plant, you can come to this window and be able to watch rotations through the street and stuff like that, and maybe even angle out here and kind of watch the back street. So it can still be a useful tool in post-plant situations for allies, but it's not ridiculous for Axis who are making rotations and who are trying to use it to their advantage or something like that. So it certainly will play a little bit differently. Obviously, some people might think it's still a really powerful spot for Axis to hold on defense, because if you get inside this room, you can help defend B. You know, you can kind of watch this angle here and also be able to bounce around and help out middle. But there is a hold that you can use to nade people out of this. So I don't know. I'll be curious to see how this plays out as well. This is a very minor change, but I think it has big implications, at least on getting vision inside the site, rotating from middle through the windows to where it's basically null and void now, whereas before you could basically get open rain on the site. But this is some changes to Liberation that I think make it better. Again, I don't think this map needed any drastic change. I think it already played out pretty well. You could say that there's still maybe some nade spam issues, but I don't really think so. I think that most nades are, you know, pretty easily avoided. So I think this map, for right now, plays out fine, but I'll be curious to see how it plays out over time and what further changes may or may not be needed to this map, and how people feel about it as they play on it more. So that's the big changes for Liberation. Now we'll move on to Manor V2. So Manor V2 did come up with some changes to it in this update, and I actually did a video just kind of doing some brainstorming at Manor V2 that I released the day before this update got launched, basically. And part of what I talked about in that video was the fact that the headshot angles on these B platforms were a little bit too powerful. And as you can see, this has definitely changed a lot. Yeah, you could still crouch behind it, but you're definitely a lot more exposed. You don't have this really OP headshot angle anymore. All the railings basically got removed and replaced by just this solitary barrel and board setup. Yeah, so certainly a lot less OP to hold this, and basically the same thing happened on the opposite side for allies who are trying to pick into B site. As you can see, the railings around the stairs have been removed and just replaced by these barrels, and so again, a little bit more risky, a little bit more exposed to be taking these types of fights, and so this should certainly help, you know, the fight be a little bit more straight up and not be affected by some type of headshot angle or something like that that feels a little bit too overpowered. There's also some minor changes to this map, you know, just kind of removing some bugs like being able to see under walls and some collision stuff and things like that. But as far as, you know, any other real changes, the only, I guess, one of note is adding of this pallet right here, which basically marks where you can jump up on top of this roof. Now, I'm not even going to attempt to do it right now in this video because I am fucking awful at doing crouch jumps and cool stuff like that, but you get the point. There's a crate here now that helps you do your thing, and so this is a little bit of an addition to the map aesthetically, but it also means something, right? Like it's something that you can kind of use as an indicator to help you navigate the map and do certain things. And again, other than that, it was just mostly some bug fixes and pixel walk fixes and seeing under walls and things like that. They didn't change any of the boosts or anything at spawn or at A, which are some things that I suggested, which I think maybe could still be looked at in the future. But yeah, it's definitely a map that was already really good that I don't think really needed any drastic changes. I just mentioned a few in the brainstorming video the day before this patch came out, and I think that they might be able to make the map better, but I don't think they're vital or anything like that. I think the map already is pretty neat the way it is. I think that ever since the March 8th update, excuse me, like super rehaul of this map, I think this map has been drastically improved with that. And so as long as they can patch up some bugs and different things like that, then I think that's what's most important. We've also seen some minor changes to Outpost and Invasion, but they were really minor. And in the case of Outpost, it's not really a competitive map, so it's not really a focus of mine. But there were some changes on those maps as well that you can check out in the patch notes. But other than that, the biggest changes actually come to Spectate and just some kind of miscellaneous changes. And so we'll bring you over to the update page to talk through those. So to finish talking about the update, we'll take a look at the web browser here to talk about some of the changes that have taken place to this. So first off, you see that smokes will now show up on the large overview minimap. So this is another step towards just improving the spectator experience. And these are different items that myself and Howard have been in touch about throughout all the Blitzkrieg battle tournaments I commentated with Vince. I was constantly giving him updates on things I think needed to be tweaked or changed. We already saw some great changes to like X-ray color outlines and player bar colors, and you know what color the player's dot is on the mini map and how that all syncs up together. So it's across the board blue for allies and across the board red for Axis, so there's no confusion and mixing and matching of colors. And so we've been coming up with those ideas. Obviously, the new mini maps, the new simple radar-inspired map overviews and such are also a big improvement that make it a lot easier to read the mini map or read the map overview for a commentator or just for a spectator in general, or for people playing inside the server using the mini map. So there's just been a constant push towards improving the spectating experience, and so having smoke show up in the large map overview is just another step towards doing that we were talking about. I think this is really neat. It allows you to pull up the map overview, see where smokes are, give you an idea of the bigger picture of what's going on the map, which I think helps break down strategy and tactics a lot as a commentator, and also makes it easy to see as a viewer when you bring that type of stuff up. Then you can see they fixed some of the kill feed colors sometimes showing up incorrectly. Again, just making sure it's across the board, you know, blue for ally, red for Axis, whether they're killing or being killed, and just making that across the board consistent. Then we saw just some other like visual improvements for spectators, such as fixing for crouching and proning being instant, and then spectators now seeing which team won the round instead of just round end. So that certainly is some cool stuff. Also, again, just see some bug fixes for kill feed colors, and just some different things like that So some client crashes and different things like that. Then some network communication improvements. I think this is nice. They had some different network icons added to the top right of the HUD, which basically will tell you, hey, you know, there's a server performance issue, so you know it's on the server's end. It lets you know if cheats are enabled or not, which I guess is important, right, to make sure you have that stuff turned off if you're scrimming or playing a match. And then if it's client side on you, it lets you know, hey, you're having some latency issues or some packet loss issues, or you have latency variation, your ping's all over the place, or you're getting low frame rate or a low refresh rate. So it just kind of maybe helps you better troubleshoot issues you might be having while you're playing if you can kind of pinpoint what exactly is going wrong. So I think that this is a cool little, you know, thing that's been added that might help people better understand what issues they're having so that they can try to remedy them and be more accurate in what's going on. Then we had some other miscellaneous changes. So now there's no more launcher. You click the game, it just launches. You select a region in-game at the top of the main menu. And then if you want to change your region, you have to restart the client. And yes, this, oh God, I didn't even notice this until just now. Like, I did a quick read through these updates before I started recording the video, but now as I'm rereading through it, I'm thinking to myself, yes, this is great. Having the gray player color on the mini-map was a huge thing, playing competitive and such. They changed it to yellow. That's great. That's a small little subtle detail, but it's definitely something that really helps out the game. So definitely appreciate that. Also got some news here if you run community servers, so definitely check that out if you do that. And then here at the bottom, it just is a note about looking forward. Our next major update will be a big one containing lots of great changes and additions. Until then, we are sinking into developing more content and diving into developing fixes for continual issues. This leads me to believe that the next major update of this game might be a while. We might see some hot fixes or some other minor updates if there's something really going wrong that really needs to be addressed immediately, but it feels like getting any like major changes, I think it might be a little bit off, like in the sense of when we'll get one. It could be a lot longer. I mean, we just had a big update March 8th. We've gotten this update, you know, 8 days later. I think it's just about setting a tone that you're not going to see a major update every week. I could be wrong, though. Maybe they roll out these things faster than I'm anticipating, but it does seem like maybe they're just going to take a break from releasing updates and really focus on developing things and then releasing them at a later time once everything's actually done. But we'll have to see. And then they say that coupled with our next major update, there's plenty of cool announcements regarding Battalion and its future coming soon, so make sure you stay tuned for those. I have to imagine this is probably like tournament announcements and things like that. There's certainly been rumors going around about a major with a higher prize pool, you know, that's actually, you know, a bigger tournament for this game. Of course, we have that 10K LAN at I-62. There's been some note about some other community-run LAN events going on across Europe. But maybe we might be getting some more tournament updates, you know, whether it be like their version of a major or whether it be third-party companies running tournaments like an ESL or a DreamHack or a PGL or just whatever the case may be. Maybe we'll get some news about some new tournaments coming. We all know that they've been talking with ESL UK because we've seen those images on social media, so something could be coming of that. We also know that they've been talking with Faceit and have partnerships there, which could maybe be some type of Faceit tournament. Faceit has certainly done tournaments outside of Counter-Strike for different games, so it could be that Faceit might eventually do some tournaments or a league for Battalion. Could also mean that, you know, Battalion becomes a game that's a part of the pickup game client that Faceit has, which they do with like FPL and such in CSGO, as well as just, you know, Faceit Premium or playing Faceit Pugs for free in CSGO for different regions. So maybe it could be a partnership with them to have some type of pickup game service as well. So we'll have to see. As of now, I do want to give a shout out to the TZ. You can check them out over on social media. They're really cool guys, the TZ org. They do pickup games, I think mostly in the NA scene, but they also do, I think, Europe, and I think they've opened up stuff for South America and other stuff. They're also the ones who let me kind of borrow servers from time to time to create these videos, so definitely go check out the TZ org over on Twitter, and from there you can get their information for their Discord if you want to play pickup games, or, you know, they do draft tournaments every weekend, and you can actually watch those. They're broadcasted, so all that information can be found on the TZ Twitter, so be sure to go check that out. And with that said, This is signing out on this video about the updates. I actually had a video in the works on some smoke grenades for Manor V2, but now some of them don't work quite the same with the changes on the B-bomb side of Manor V2, so I have to redo that video. But be on the lookout for more YouTube content for me in general for Battalion, as far as brainstorming videos, as far as coming up with like smokes or nades or ideas on changes to maps, as well as the In the Trenches podcast. Hopefully the second episode of that will be coming, and that'll be an ongoing podcast series talk show thing I do for Battalion. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Catch you next time.